Ethan Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Former Taipei Mayor Wen-je has been released on bail after a hearing that lasted into the early hours of Friday morning. The one-time presidential hopeful has been charged with bribery and mishandling of political funds, and prosecutors are seeking a prison sentence of close to 30 years. Tiffany Wong reports.
Walking free for the first time in 4 months, former Taipei Mayor Wen-je heads home with a smile on his face after spending most of his corruption investigation held incommunicado. He was visibly emotional as he addressed supporters outside his home, maintaining his innocence after prosecutors officially charged him with acts of corruption.
有时候感谢上苍给我这个机会，可以反省一下自己的人生，你知道吗？我还是相信我自己不是那种什么图利啦、贪污啦、会违法的人啊，但是会遇到这种风风雨雨，你知道吗？表示我们人生还是有地方要检讨。
Ke is implicated in a corruption scandal involving a land redevelopment project when he was mayor. He's also been charged with misusing political funds during his failed run for president this year. 4 others charged in the case were offered bail on Friday, including Ke's former deputy mayor and the head of a company in charge of the development project in question. Their combined bail is over $3 million. Ke is the most high-profile figure in the case. A crowd outside the courthouse erupted in cheers early Friday morning when the judge struck down the prosecutor's request to extend his detention. Leading members of the party he founded, the Taiwan People's Party, were also there.
我们从来没有放弃过，但是我要拜托大家一件事，我们接下来还有更辛苦的仗要打，请大家一定要记得一件事，这不是只是为了阿北个人，这是为了我们深爱的土地，为了台湾的民主，为了台湾的法治，我们会一直跟阿北走下去，永远不会放弃。
Ke supporters have called the charges a political attack by the ruling Democratic Progressive Party to shut down the TPP as a rising third party. The party plays a vital swing role in the legislature, and Ke ran strongly in this year's presidential election. The trial is expected to last months, and if found guilty, Ke faces a potential 28.5 years in prison if the prosecutors get their way. But his release, even if temporary, is a welcome relief to his family, party, and supporters. Fua Hong and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
South Korea's National Assembly has voted to impeach acting President Han Duck-soo less than 2 weeks after impeaching President Yoon Suk-yeol. Han took over from Yoon, who was ousted over a botched martial law declaration early this month. Though Yoon has been stripped of his powers, the Constitutional Court must now decide whether to remove him from office. Han said he would not fill vacancies on the court until the Assembly agreed on whether an acting president has such powers. In response, the opposition Democratic Party moved to impeach him. Finance Minister Choi Son-mok will replace Han as acting president. The Defense Ministry has declined to give TaiwanPlus further explanation as to why some of its most critical weapons were deployed within public view, a move some say is a security risk. Jaime Ocon explains.
These Taiwanese Navy personnel are part of a special unit known as the Haifeng Brigade.
将弹箱升起至标准仰角。
They're tasked with one core mission, destroying enemy ships. And by carrying missiles in massive trucks, they're able to deploy almost anywhere in the country. Earlier this year, TaiwanPlus got a chance to see one of the brigades in action as they conducted a simulated defense of a port against pretend Chinese ships.
近年来，更从固定阵地转型为机动飞弹车组，并挂载了雄风3型反舰飞弹。
Established in the 1980s, the Haifeng Missile Brigade has seen a surge in investment in recent years, spurred by the military pressure from China, which has the world's largest navy and threatens to invade Taiwan. Analysts here in Taiwan say that the Haifeng Brigade is a core part of Taiwan's asymmetric strategy, leaning more on missiles to offset the costs of expensive warships.
因为台湾的 资源 resources 比较有限，所以就不能采取传统海军的这个做法。那所以在这种情况下，台湾作为一个防卫者，就是有足够的飞弹的话，就可以阻止中国的两栖登陆，那当然就可以让台湾有很高的机会可以防卫成功了。
The Haiphong Brigade was deployed multiple times during several of China's recent large military exercises around the country, giving the public a glimpse of one of the country's most secretive weapon systems. Critics argue that the public display poses a security risk, as the weapons are repeatedly deployed in the same location and are easily trackable due to their size.
There is a huge convoy that's the track attentions and everyone know where it is. The bigger the convoy, of course, the higher the profile that they are. You can bet that a remote sensing satellite, a Chinese remote sensing satellite from space, take a photo, they can see easily on a highway.
A Chinese company has already used dozens of pictures uploaded by Taiwanese media to map out what they suspect are the system's transportation routes and where they would be stationed. Taiwan's defense ministry has said that during wartime, there would be many places they could be deployed.
我们主要现在就在着重在于这个在战力保存的阶段，要着重于信息管理。那我们要部署的战术位置也不是只有一个。
Analysts from Taiwan's government-backed think tank argue that in an actual conflict, this massive convoy, which includes the radar, a command center, and the missiles, would never be in the same place at the same time.
大概是3个 module， 3个模组，所以它要去一个就是 set up 一个 position， 其实很快，就不会像现在就是可能看到你在一个停车场就会就是容易看到它，在真正战时的时候，它这3个 module 会分开的。
While Taiwan navigates how to correctly use and deploy its new systems, the Navy has plans to expand the Haiphong Brigade across the country. While the brigade's weapons seem necessary for Taiwan's defense, it remains unclear if the military has nailed down the tactics necessary to use them effectively. Andy Shui and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
China has launched the first of a new class of amphibious assault ship in the ceremony in Shanghai. The Type 076 ship has been named Sichuan and functions as a light aircraft carrier. It has an electromagnetic launch system for aircraft like drones and even possibly fighter jets. Experts believe China could use the assault ship in an attack on Taiwan. The Sichuan was launched the same day the videos emerged showing what are believed to be 2 new stealth jets. Indian news outlets say Vietnam is nearing a deal to purchase an anti-ship missile system from the country. The deal comes after the Philippines acquired a similar weapon system to use in the South China Sea, where it has competing claims with China. To learn more about Vietnam's motivations, our reporter Otto Brower spoke to Don McClan-Gill, a lecturer at the De La Salle University in Manila.
What do you make of these reports about Vietnam buying BrahMos missile systems from India? Why would Vietnam want these anti-ship missiles?
China, for instance, pushing the envelope in its claim over the Gulf of Tonkin. In the past few weeks, we saw Chinese maritime forces beat Vietnamese fisherfolk with iron clubs, for instance, and of course the imprisonment or the detainment of Vietnamese fishermen, right? So these are a number of important aspects that also determined in the strategic calculations of Vietnam towards acquiring the BrahMos missile as an important deterrent. But we have to underscore that Vietnam is unlikely to engage in bloc politics against China, driven by its strategic culture, its emphasis on strategic autonomy.
The Philippines has already acquired a similar missile system to use in the South China Sea, where it has competing claims with China. Is that why Vietnam wants to buy these missiles?
It's quite interesting that Vietnam has been in the works of its negotiations with India for the BrahMos missiles and other types of weapon systems as well. For instance, in 2017, there was the Akash missiles, right? So this also gained some controversy vis-a-vis China. But today, given the highly competitive nature of Indo-Pacific geopolitics, the highly polarized dimension of Southeast Asian security, this was a natural step for Vietnam, right? And of course, as we see, Vietnam and the Philippines are also improving their confidence-building mechanisms through bilateral patrols for non-traditional security issues with their coast guards. Then this is definitely in line with the whole aspect of deterrence, right? So this is in fact also another thing that we could anticipate, given of course that there's a trend within Southeast Asia to bolster their defense capabilities amidst the US-China power competition on one hand and China's expansionism on the other.
And how do you think China will react to Vietnam acquiring these missiles?
China has also been a major supplier of arms and defense equipment to India's immediate neighbors. And of course, the first offshore base of China is in Djibouti in the Western Indian Ocean. So in this regard, I don't really think that China should be apprehensive about this, given that it has been trying to do so in a different connotation. When we look at India's engagements in Southeast Asia, it is not merely to address the China factor, but it is to improve the capacity building of like-minded and friendly nations.
That was Don McClain-Gill from the De La Salle University. Suspicions are mounting that an Azerbaijan Airlines plane that crashed in Kazakhstan on Wednesday, killing 38 people, was downed by a Russian air defense system. Images have emerged on social media that appear to show shrapnel damage on the wreckage. Joyson reports.
Returning home after a nightmare flight on Christmas Day, Azerbaijani survivors of the deadly plane crash near Aktau city in Kazakhstan arrived back in Azerbaijan's capital Baku and were met with emergency responders and medics. The Embraer 190 passenger plane was supposed to fly from Baku to Grozny in southern Russia, an area where Moscow and Kyiv are engaged in active combat. The plane was instead diverted hundreds of miles off course for an emergency landing, crashing in a ball of fire in Kazakhstan, killing 38 of the 67 people on board. There are mixed reports over what caused the crash, with Azerbaijani and U.S. officials suspecting a Russian missile hit the passenger plane, an explanation backed by some aviation experts.
C'est que l'analyse des débris de l'avion permet de savoir un petit peu plus sur la cause et notamment ces traces qui sont notamment sur la queue de l'appareil. On a de l'extérieur et de l'intérieur des preuves qu'il y a bien eu des shrapnels qui ont traversé l'avion. C'est forcément un missile de défense aérienne.
16 of the plane's passengers were Russians, and as those who survived arrived near Moscow, the Kremlin reiterated its warning against jumping to unfounded conclusions, with investigators in Kazakhstan yet to release any results. Meanwhile, foreign governments like Brazil and Canada have sent their own officials to aid investigations and called on Russia for an open and transparent probe. Speaking to Reuters, sources with knowledge of the case so far say Baku expects Moscow to confess to shooting down the plane, a situation that would make more countries wary of the Kremlin.
And so if they aren't given some sort of assurance that these flights won't be shot down by Russian air defense systems, this could lead to disagreements between Russia and the states that not only border Russia, but have been critical in ensuring that Russia has been able to evade Western-led sanctions from its invasion of Ukraine.
Celebrations here this holiday season have now been muted as people mourn those lost on that Christmas flight. And with answers still elusive and unclear, uncertainty pervades along with grief. Hank Xu and Joyson for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website and follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we take you to an exhibition in Rome showcasing over 120 works by Fernando Botero, some on public display for the first time ever. I'm Ethan Liu. Take care, and I'll see you next time.